This is Aligned Business Alchemy. I'm Marianne Till. Welcome to episode 0, Building a Business that Feels Safe and Alive. This is a visual podcast, so you are welcome to be watching the video or just listening live. So, as a visual podcast, I'll be exploring astrology, human design, and archetypal wisdom, amongst other things, all of which can help you to build a business that feels aligned, alive, and sustainable. If you've ever felt that the way you're told to build a business simply doesn't fit who you are not alone. So here we explore a different approach, one that begins with your identity, your energy, and the rhythms that you naturally have. So it is a different kind of approach. So this podcast exists because of my own experience, my own journey that I've had since probably 2018 of setting up a business and going through lots and lots of different changes and trials and failures and all of those kinds of things. So this experience has really given me the motivation to create this podcast for other people who are experiencing the same kind of thing. You know, my story began back towards the end of 2018 when I signed up for a group coaching program to help me set my business up for success as it was just getting all started. Now, this is because probably 15 years before that, I had another business that had gone from being a hobby into a full-time business that then failed. And I felt, right, this time I'm going to learn all of the right things to do, how to actually set up a business in this current environment, and so on. And the program was made for specifically for people like me, people who were just starting. And essentially, the person who was running it said, well, if you are wanting to set up a program, for example, these are the steps you need to follow. If you are going to get people into the program, these are the steps you need to follow. If you follow each of the steps that I say in the way that I say to do them, you will have success. So, classic one-size-fits-all approach to running an online business, or in this case, running an online coaching kind of business, that sort of flavor. What I learned from this was how much one size doesn't fit all. Although at the time I felt quite alone because the container was quite large, maybe 30 people from memory. So it was a reasonable size. And I could see all of these people that I was following that were in the group doing exactly what the coach said and having success and going to the group calls and talking about how much success they'd have. And I would just want to hide away in my little corner. Don't pick me. Don't ask me to say anything. I am not here. Because I had crickets following this process. Now, there were other people I found after who were having this same experience as me. But naturally, the coach would be highlighting those people who were expressing their success because that helps to build up her momentum within the program and also the way in which she's seen as a true role model for us to follow. But there were certainly at least 50% of the people were having success doing exactly what she said to do. I just felt like I was a failure. I was failing, I was really questioning what I was doing. At the time, I was still working full time as a teacher, so it wasn't critically important. But the idea of this business was critically important to me. I wanted this to succeed, particularly after the failure of the previous business that I'd had. Also doing something that I really believed in and really loved. So, the failures that I felt, and I was following her methodology faithfully, doing exactly what she said, doing almost the cut and paste systems. Don't know if you've experienced that as well. I am fascinated to find out. Now, the other thing that was happening was, as I tried to do these strategies, I had this really uncomfortable, icky kind of sensation. It was like, oh, my body just wanted to resist these strategies. And I thought, that was just because of this sense of failure that was developing. But the resistance was actually because I was forcing myself to step into these strategies. It did, like, this is my reflection after. At the time, it felt like this is what I had to do. So I suppose that's forcing as well, isn't it? But anyway, the feeling that I had was the resistance that was saying, this is not what you're meant to be doing. And that thing that felt like a big, massive problem to me was actually the thing that led me to realizing that first kernel of truth that created a massive business shift. And what I really started to understand was that I was not designed to just create a cookie cutter business. And, I wasn't the kind of person who could follow those systems. I wasn't the kind of person who energetically actually had the capacity to post on social media, 5 times a day. Of course, one of the issues that was happening around this time is that COVID did come along in the early stages of my business, but that was not really the big thing that I realized later that was happening. Now, just because I realized that I was not in alignment, that, things were not actually working correctly following that way, I didn't know what the other way was. Let's be honest. So, the shift was within me. I didn't suddenly go from $0 one month and 3 months later, 10K. That's not what happened. This was an internal shift. First I needed to really recognize who I truly was. I really had been operating from the wrong perspective. And I had to, face some of these things going on and go, well, who am I? If this isn't working for me, why? What, at this point it was, what's wrong with me? But then I realized that this wasn't about rightness or wrongness. This was just about a misconnection, essentially. So, I sought out ways to truly start to understand what was going on. This is my nature to try and go, well, it's not working. It's actually didn't work for some other people. Why not? What was happening? And this is when, amazingly enough, well, not really, because I don't believe in coincidences, but this is when human design came into my life. And this was the tool that helped me to recognize my true essence, my true identity, how I was truly designed to operate. And I discovered that I was a projector. And that was the first aha, because the methodologies that, the plug and play systems that were in this program were really designed for generator types. And that's okay. I'd also add, they didn't work for all the generators in the group, because I started to work with some of those people afterwards, and it was quite revealing to go, because I thought it was just, I'm a projector, that's the problem. But no, there was something about trying to force yourself into someone else's methodology that did not work for everyone. So there would have been something around the coach's design and the design of some of the other participants that led to success, but not for everyone. All right, so I started to understand the importance of my design and the importance of being in alignment with that. When we're aligned with our energy, and then we use that to align to our business, then there's a kind of momentum, a kind of calmness, steadiness that comes through. Please note, still no 10K months. Okay, it was something that I had to really almost dismantle my business and start to view in a different way. And I've had to dismantle the structure of my business since that moment, I think 4 times, before finally having my business as something that was a co-creator with me, something that allowed me to build momentum, something that allowed me to feel aligned to every single thing that I was doing in my business, not just the output, or not just the structures, or not just whatever. I often hear people talking about, how their business fed a particular aspect of themselves. Your business should operate in a way that feels entirely natural to you, something that you're moving your energy through, you're moving your learning through. So, there really was this internal journey happening, and still happening, because we're all here to learn continually. I believe we are all on a journey of learning. And what was most important during these early times was understanding, first of all, that my business is its own entity as well, that it is in existence. I've brought it into existence to actually support my design and to support my success through my design. And when you actually learn how to work with your design and with the design of your business, that is where true change can take place. So, like I said, I see this as a journey. This is the journey that we take through our business. And for me, a metaphor that I think helps to bring it together is, it's like you deciding to go on a hike up a mountain, and you're going to follow a kind of path, but the path will have all of these twists and turns. It might have some boulders in one direction, it might have some streams flowing. All of these different things that happen on this path that is non-linear helps us to know more and more our purpose at the deepest internal level. Now, as you move up the mountain, you're also going to experience changes in your surrounding. You'll encounter different people. You'll encounter different issues. You'll encounter different potentials. So these different environments and spaces are part of this non-linear pathway that you're going on. So if you have been made to feel like your business has to be linear and it has to just be going that direction all the time, this may be a sign that your business and yourself are not in alignment. So, as you move up the mountain, you're going to experience change within yourself, change within your surroundings. Nothing is static when you're actually moving, even if sometimes it feels like you're moving sideways, or maybe you had to go back and around a boulder or whatever. You're moving, so things are changing. If nothing is changing in your business, this is when you need to be concerned. Now, as you are moving on this journey, you need to learn to follow the things that draw you to them. You know, in basic terms, this is using your intuition. In human design, we would talk about using your strategy and your authority. It doesn't matter. It's being enough in connection with yourself to intuitively know that this is the next direction I need to go in. And that's the direction I need to keep away from. So think of this podcast as being a little bit like your companion as you traverse this pathway up the mountain. All right, let's talk a little bit about environments and spaces. So, as you're traveling up the mountain, I've talked about there's going to be different environments to explore. And these are some of the environments that I'm going to be exploring with you in this podcast. So the first one is about exploration and insight. Hopefully, as you come on a journey with me, there will be new ideas that are sparked, different ways of seeing things, seeing yourself, seeing your business, perhaps opening up for you. There's also going to be an environment of learning and understanding where all of a sudden, or maybe over time, there'll be this feeling that things are making sense, things are coming together, things are grounding more, and they're grounding into practicality. You'll find through this podcast that I am always going to move towards what's practical. There is a lot of knowledge that I have. There are a lot of ideas I have, but that's useless if there's not actually something that leads somewhere. And this is part of what's brought me to where I am now and the things that I'm sharing with you. So, learning and understanding what's starting to click. And, we've then got identity and business design, which goes into that practicality. Practically, you want to start to shape a business that actually reflects who you are and how you work, what your purpose is here. In other words, what's going to truly fit you so that every day in your business feels like it is exciting. It's feeding your curiosity. It's creating an adventure of some kind, even at a gentle level. And then, of course, there is transformation and expansion. This is about places where there is potential for you to have deeper shifts and ways for your business to evolve, you to evolve in very powerful kinds of ways. There's all the shifting that I talked about. If things aren't changing on the journey, then you're not really moving. So the role that I see of this podcast is as a starting point. This is where change can begin for you. I'll be offering different insights, patterns that I see, different perspectives, and you can use them as a curiosity point. You can use it maybe as something that clicks, or maybe you can just go, I'm not connecting with that. That's okay. So this podcast is also hopefully about you seeing yourself and your business through a different lens. In fact, if that's the only thing that I truly achieve through this podcast, then that is a success for me. And I would really like this podcast to become a space where it feels safe to explore your alignment, explore what alignment means, and check in and see if you are aligned truly with who you're meant to be. So to get a little bit, more specific, let's zero in. This is the practicalities. So what you're going to find here is I'm going to be talking about astrological kinds of things. So cosmic rhythms, cycles, the planets, what other kinds of astrological things can be helpful in you understanding you and your business cycles. I will obviously be talking about human design and bringing in gene keys and the I Ching. The I Ching as the basis for the gate energy and some of the other energies within human design. And I'll probably bring in some of the other origins as well, where it's important, where it's useful for your business integration. Now, archetypes and mythology are so important when we're talking about astrology and human design, because it helps us to understand what that underlying energy is and how we can actually use it in a positive way. And my goal is for each podcast to have some real business integration. So the real business integration here is hopefully sparking your curiosity and your contemplation around how aligned are you to your business. So this is the starting point for that. All right. So how you use the podcast is essentially how I set up my business. You're not going to need everything here. And it's up to you. Use that intuition. Use that guidance system. As the library of podcast episodes increases, you don't need to follow things in order. It really can be, what's the thread that you're following? Keep following that. It's taking you somewhere important. Notice what stands out. Follow those things that resonate. And not everything I say is going to resonate. Let's be honest. That's not how things work. But I am hoping to spark, your curiosity. Maybe give you a little poke to think about your business in a different way. So this first podcast is your starting point, or maybe it's your next step. Maybe it's now truly that time to trust what's drawing you. If I said anything that sparked a reaction today, then that might be your true starting point. So this is truly just the beginning, and I am really glad that you're here. So if this episode sparked something for you, take a moment, pause, notice what it is that's landing. Because like I said, that's probably your true next step. And maybe I'll be able to provide something that will help you along the way of that next step. Now, if you would like to support the podcast as an energy exchange, there is a link down below. And I would say this is not an obligation. This is an invitation. If at any point in time, any of these episodes has made a really positive contribution to you, I'd appreciate an energetic exchange. It just helps me to keep things going. If you're feeling called to go deeper, you're going to find that there are lots of different ways to explore things. My business really provides you with a pathway. It can be from shorter learning experiences, very specific kinds of learning within the academy, or you can take part in some live circles These are some group spaces that I've created. And the upcoming one at the moment is the Aligned Business Blueprint. It will be on a regular cycle. So if you are interested in that, you can check down below. And of course, there are one-to-one readings and deeper personalized work guidance that will help you to understand yourself and your business at whatever level you choose at this time. So wherever you are at, there's a pathway that's there ready to meet you and to help you. So just for now, take what you've received and start to weave it into your own pathway. Until next time.